Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the SLE. I am joined with one of my favorite co-casters, Dasa. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. I'm very excited to be here with you, Solonex. Of course, we have Beast versus Ragnarok on the agenda today, and it should be an exciting game, especially with both of these teams being 3-1. This is gonna mean a lot to both of these teams.
Yeah, it's gonna mean a lot. And 3-1, like at this stage of the split, it's such a great point to be in. It's a healthy scoreline to have going into the rest of the season. I think the the thing about the SLE is starting well is super important because it literally means that as a squad, you are better prepared than everyone else coming in. So you have the advantage, and which is why you get those wins on the board early on. So I think Beasts and Ragnarok, I think I've seen great things from both. I'm very excited to watch specifically the top laner of Beasts, as I think last game he put in a fantastic performance up against who is it? Interstellar, where they went 1-1, and then Ragnarok. Ragnarok's jungler Just Ryan is a very impressive player in my eyes. I think he's very underrated. Someone that kind of is he's gone under the radar when it comes to analyzing players in the split. But actually think he's one of the top players that we have here.
Yeah, definitely. So Justeran is known for champions like the Wukong, and like you said it yourself, if you get off to a good start, it generally tends to be the steam that helps you push forward. And obviously, looking a little bit back into last week, it was Ragnarok who ended up being 2-0 against Make Inting Great, and Beast ended up being 1-1 against Interstellar. So if we're looking at things like momentum, if we're looking at things like who has the upper advantage sort of going into this matchup, it would be Ragnarok with them beating Make Integrate 2-0. And with that being said, some of the matchups, like you said, we're looking at is going to be the jungle as well. But bot lane being such an important and such a pivotal role in the meta at the moment, and seeing a bunch of changes going towards it as well into the next patch. And I'll be very excited to see what Alias and Seabreeze can bring to the table today. Alias is obviously known for his Ash, and I should expect that to be banned away today. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of improvisation we're going to see out of Ragnarok, and potentially some interesting picks coming through when it comes down to the bot lane.
Yeah, and interesting you mentioned the Ash. I think this is a champion where it's quite a regular ADC. It does come in and out of the meta, but in a weird way, it can kind of be considered a specialist champion. Like even some of the top AD carries, not some of the best, are even able to pilot the Ash to an efficient standard. And I think we actually have some incredible Ash players here in the SLE. Sadly, one of them has dropped out, but Firefrost. We've got the Star 80 carry playing today, as you mentioned, and we've got like the likes of Kanza, for example. So I think I actually really like Ash as a champion. I think an AD carry who can provide some form of utility to his team is always fun to watch, and watching those cross map arrows are really hype. But yeah, no, definitely agree. Bot lane centric meta right now. There's a lot of focus towards playing for that lane and making sure that your AD carry is stronger than the opponent. But I think recently, specifically in the SLE, I've seen top laners play extremely aggressive against each other. I don't think, historically SLE top laners, they are very defensive. They would just pick a tank, ride it out, see how it goes, and then make an impact in team fights, low CS numbers. But I think this split top lane is a very different situation.
Yeah, definitely. So we have some powerhouses up there like Ant, who last time around did sort of end up making the difference. So it is gonna be very interesting to see if we are just gonna get a tank matchup top lane. It is like you said, has generally been just people locking in Ornn to be safe and just letting sort of his team ride it out. And it does tend to be just because the meta is at the moment so bot lane eccentric, and it's so pivotal to get your AD carry ahead, especially when you look at some of the champions like Kai'Sa, who is so much better off if you can get sort of a couple of early kills into her, if you can get her an early lead, because once she gets that static shiv into her inventory, it's especially good because it means you tend to be able to leave her alone a lot more, and you can send your support to sort of roam a lot more, just because you have a lot more of that wave clear, you have a lot more agency when it comes to the Kai'Sa. And Kai'Sa obviously a champion that has, I feel like, numerous versatility. It is something that we see a lot less nowadays, but in my opinion, the Kai'Sa's AD build is much or as good, if not better, than the AP version of her, and definitely is sustainable and usable if you need to build it. And some of the things that I am expected to hit the ban or pick table today is the Kai'Sa, as well as the Ashe. Briar is a champion that has seen, or we yet haven't seen play in SLE, but that's true because there is also a 2-week ban on it, as it was released only recently. And it is a champion that at the moment, is especially strong. So I wouldn't be surprised to potentially see players pick it up once that sort of 2-week ban does end, and seeing if potentially we might have some sauce and some spice once she becomes unlocked.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one thing I actually want to talk about Source and Spice, and talking about what lanes have been strong. I think one particular lane, more specifically, not just this meta, but actually throughout the entire year, this season, mid lane has been kind of pushed down to a very facilitator. You know, Lissandra, Annie, Oriana, control mage. Like you just kind of clear waves. You're not really strong. Mage items just aren't that good right now. And I mean, like in terms of hyper carry mid laners, they seem definitely have seemed to have gone off the radar. I think the only one that I can think of is like Azir, right? But outside of that, you're basically just picking a champion that wave clears. And when it comes to the SLE, do you like? Would you say this is beneficial to SLE mid laners? That mid lane is a less important role.
I mean, I generally like to think so, just because, in my opinion, like you said it yourself, top lane is the lane that has been so much more aggressive this split when it comes to previous splits. And when you compare to, for example, split 4, top lane has seen a lot more bruiser champions. We've seen a lot more fighting up there, with things like the Aatrox being strong, with things like the Darius being strong into certain matchups. It does help facilitate that as well. And like you said, speaking a little bit about the mid lanes, things that we have sort of seen, we have seen the Victors, the Azirs, but Syndra to me is a champion that has been popping up a lot more in SLE as well. And it is a champion that, like you said it yourself, tends to fly a little bit under the radar. It is a pick that scales very, very well into the later stages of the game, but can definitely do things in the early game if you can get a good setup and if you can get a good fight as well. And I would like to see potentially people shift their weight towards more aggressive mid laners, but with the way that the jungle, both jungle and the ADC pool is at the moment, I don't realistically see it happening. I feel like people, especially since looking at LCK, looking at LPL, people tend to generally play to the bot lane a lot more. There's a lot of players who tend to just follow what pro play does and just play in a similar fashion. And in pro play, we have seen a lot of play through that bot lane. So I would assume that it'll stay the same way. Looking at like the next patch coming through 13-19, it didn't shake up the mid lane a whole lot. So I would assume for the same champions to still be good, the Azirs, the Syndras, the Victors, and sort of continue on the same path that we have been, at least so far.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as you know, even though the mid lane meta right now is getting kind of stale, I think one recent change that they did in the last patch was, they increased Cassin's ult AP ratio by like, I can't remember, like 20% or something.
Yeah.
And I think this definitely throws a spanner in the works because he basically counters everything that teams are picking in the meta right now. Um, so I think that would be an interesting thing to keep your eye on. Obviously, not the best pick in competitive because very difficult to get priority before level 6. But anyway, enough on meta talk as we head into the draft, and we can instantly see now we talk about meta. I feel like SLE a lot of times has its own little meta, and the Seraphine is already off the board.
Yeah, definitely. So, and that to me is one of the things I love about SLE because you can tell that the more you go into a split, the more you go into a season, people start learning what other teams are good at. People start learning what you should ban away, but you can afford to leave open. And already we see Beast Team Esports take away the Ash we mentioned earlier alongside Zeri, two very highly contested AD carries nowadays. Zeri as well is a champion that did see the 5 movement speed nerf, which has seen a lot of talk around the SLE Discord as to how much it's gonna be changing her up. So far, we haven't really seen much, but it might just mean that people are gonna opt into inspiration with magical footwear a lot more than they already do, which should be a healthy change in my opinion, but already targeting a lot when it comes to that bot lane pool from both teams. Ezreal, Ashe, Zeri all taken off the table.
Loads of adaptations you can do, but yeah, as you mentioned, there's a clear target for Beast
Another
Team.
AD carry.
Yeah. Clear target for Beast Team Esports is 3 AD carries get taken off the board. And we talk about, we mentioned the bot lane centric meta right now, and currently in this particular draft, the bot lane champion pool is getting really pinched out. So this would be an interesting game to watch the materialization of AD carries on both rosters to see what can you pick up with the power picks gone off. Well, obviously one of them wasn't taken off, and the Kaiser is picked first on blue side, which is something we've seen very, very common.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up that one of the options that are still
Ooh.
out there is the Kai'Sa, but I don't see any obvious choices when it comes to meta anymore in the AD carry pool, which means for Beast Team it's gonna have to be something innovative, something
Yeah,
out of pocket, and it's the Lucian coming through.
Lucian. It's not a champion that we've seen too often in recent times, but I think Kai'Sa champion in lane, you can play aggressive, but oftentimes you kind of want to just scale up. You hit your power spike later on outside of the lane phase, and Lucian, a champion, you can play super aggressive. And I think when Lucian was in the meta, this was a common pick into things like the Kai'Sa, just as long as you pair it up with a support that can enable you to play aggressive. So the one thing, of course, is that enchanted supports have fallen off a bit, and you usually opt into engage or tank your supports. So we'll see the adaptation from that side, but. Yeah, we see Atalia. This obviously is a flex pick, another thing that a lot of teams have been doing recently. Just like flex picks opens up so much for the draft. It allows you to be flexible. It's literally in the name. As Ragnarok, Just Ryan, he's famous for his Viego, and I think the league definitely has his eyes on this player on this particular champion, and he's got his hands in it once again. And also, boring mid laner.
Victor coming through for the 5,000th time for the side of Ragnarok, and it's one of the reasons of why Talia is such a good pick, just because you tend to have that wave clear built into your kit, which is extremely helpful, as well as being a excellent pick into some of the more dashy champions in the meta, things like the Azir, things like the Poppy, for example, even the Lucian potentially. This time it is going to be paired up with the Lucian, but Braum coming through is a really strong bot lane for the side of Beast Esport, and I will be interested to see what Ragnarok choose to opt into as a support option. Things like the Nautilus are still open, so it'll be interesting to see what Beast Team Esports ends up banning away as well.
Yeah, this is a really cool situation right now that Beast Team Esports have, because Talia is not a bad pick into Victor. It actually is pretty decent. You can at some point just shove the wave and out-roam him, outmaneuver him around the map, and this is before Victor gets upgrades. But what Beast Team Esports can do right now is they can put that Talia into the jungle if they play it, and then get a crazy good matchup for into the Victor. I'm talking things like the Syndra Talia. They both have great setup for each other. I'm talking things like the Silas if you play it. Obviously not too good ultimates to steal right now, but it's a great matchup. And the Cassiopeia even fantastic into Viego and Kai'Sa. So I'll be very keen and hoping Beast Team Esports utilize this Talia pick and put it into the jungle and get even better matchup for the mid lane. But obviously we'll have to see. Bans starting to come out, and you can see Ragnarok they are assuming that this tally is going into the into mid lane specifically, as they're banning out junglers already.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if it does end up going into the mid lane. You can see, like you said, junglers being banned away. Jarvan, a very, very highly contested, a very top tier jungler at the moment. And it's gonna be a Camille ban as well, coming through for Ragnarok, targeting a little bit of that top lane pool, trying to pinch it away. And same thing on the other side, double AP banned away, which does mean that Ragnarok does need AD. I feel like they can't really opt into things like that when there are still things like the Ornn open for the moment. We talked about this earlier a little bit. You tend to see a lot more of these tanky top laners in SLE, and there you go, and it's already locked in, and that is a bedge moment.
Yeah, I mean, as boring as it is, Ornn is a fantastic pick here. I think it works really well. I'm not sure what the champion pool of the Ragnarok's top laner is, but you know, if he doesn't play the Camille, the Fiora, well, Camille's banned, which is probably why they picked it. Then it's a fantastic pick. And with Braum, you know, being taken by your team, you do not have to worry about your ultimate getting blocked out in the middle of a team fight. So it's a really nice pick here. One thing I am slightly concerned of for the Beast Team Esports is the AD damage is very lackluster at the moment. It's like if Lucian doesn't get ahead of the laning phase, and snowballs like extremely hard, then the Lucian will be the sole AD damage dealer and could struggle to pump out crazy damage. As we see a Janna now, correct me if I'm wrong. Is this first time in the SLE? Whoa, 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 whoa! What's that?
Hold on now. Hold on now. I was really excited for a second, and then he just hovers Nico instead anyway.
Oh my god! Okay.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, okay, it is gonna be the J. I was really hoping for the Z. I'll be honest, it would have been really, really spicy and really funny, but you mentioned them lacking AD damage, and they've gone and opted in for a little bit more.
Yeah, I can't lie. The Z would have been insane because it's like one of Victor's least favorite matchups. Like the champion genuinely counts as Victor in every aspect of match football. But I mean, the J's probably a safer pick because Z is pretty useless to be honest. It's a cool counter pick, but like that's it, you know. But yeah, no, I think what I find interesting about this Jace pick, it is decent into the Victor. You do completely outrange him. Obviously, like Jace Shock Blaster, you can fire that from Narnia, and then you're good to go. But kind of picking a poke champion because Jace does fall under that poke category into a Janna isn't usually too optimal. But obviously, you know, it kind of depends if Janna is clutch enough on the shields, or you know, often. I've seen some of the best Janna players like know how to absorb the right amount of damage. They basically frontline. They're basically a tank, but they like absorb a good amount of damage so that they make sure that you're all nice and safe. So we'll see how the Janna plays. I'm really curious to watch this Janna be operated here. I think it's the first time I've seen it in the SLE, and I don't know, like, how do you think this Janna fits into this team composition here?
Definitely, first time we're seeing it in SLE. I'm not entirely sure about the whole Kaisa Jenna pairing,
Yeah.
but it's gonna be interesting, especially considering how strong this bot lane on the side of Beast Team Sport is. Lucian Braum is a combo that is just known for playing giga aggressive. You can proc that Braum passive so easily with the
Mm,
double shot on the Lucian that sometimes it's just too much burst damage and you don't see it coming. And the second you know it's gonna happen, it's already too late for you. So it'll
yeah.
be interesting to see how Ragnarok chooses to play around it. But I have to agree with you. This is the first time I'm gonna be seeing a Janna, and I'm not entirely sold on it. There is just not enough for me at least. There is not enough just straight up engage. On sort of Beast Team Esports, generally Janna is picked as someone who offers you that disengage with the tornado, with the ultimate. You can sort of boop people away and keep people at their distance, and it is gonna be good when you have a Victor by your side who wants to just sort of poke before the team fight begins. Same with Kai'Sa, depending on if it is gonna be the AP build coming through or the more so hybrid build with the static shift and Nashers giving you that double evolve on that E and W by the time you complete Nashers. And yes, there is a lot of long range damage coming through, but a lot of poke damage on sort of Beast Team Esports as well with that Jace. And like you said yourself, these Janna shields are gonna be absolutely crucial to keeping the health bars of Team Ragnarok alive.
Yeah, it's really important. Interesting point you mentioned there about your Beast Team Esports, not necessarily the most amount of engage, because it's basically an ultimate followed up with Braum stuns, right? It's not really necessarily a hard engage tool. I guess in a way it depends how you use it, but I think it's just opening boxes. Sorry. Um, anyway, so I mean, one thing that is really important to look at is Ragnarok. Talk about not necessarily reliable engage. Ragnarok's only engage is a Gnar ultimate, and that is obviously we all know to be a situational factor. Someone's opening like X Tech chests in my head, just made me laugh. But yeah, Ragnarok definitely lacking hard engage, and it's a lot of reliance on the Gnar here to land a big ultimate in a fight. And if he doesn't get that, you're essentially just a disengaged comp into not hard engage, and you're you kind of will be forced to fight to kite back, which obviously Kai'Sa, Viego, they are happy to do that, but they're against the likes of Italia or Braum, who can dash forward and play aggressive. Yeah, definitely not ideal, but I mean it's still not a bad team composition at all.
Yeah, definitely. So Weaver's wall is going to have to be massive for Beast Esports as well, because if you can, well, I mean, we sort of talked about not a lot of engage on the Beast Team Esports, but if you can sort of force the side of Ragnarok to play into you and lock them in a tiny pocket and sort of block out their mobility, it means that you can just walk up to them as Ornn, as the Braum, try to get your abilities in, try to get your ultimate as well as the Braum, and just try to land that extra layer of CC. Granted, it is not easy, especially when going up against a squad like Ragnarok, who have shown us before that they have the ability to sort of play together very, very well as a team and as a composition of five. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays into their decision making as well, because I expect for most of the attention in the early game to be towards this bot lane from both teams. I would imagine that Ragnarok will try their hardest to put this Lucian behind, because we talked about it earlier. Not an entire lot of AD damage coming out from Beast Team Esports. Yes, you have that Jace now to add on to that, but if this Lucian falls behind, it's gonna be a rough time, because Lucian as a champion generally, not really known for liking to play from behind, not known for wanting to be in that position. And we already know from the Lucian Braum pairing, Beast Team Esports are going to play aggressive as hell to try to get this Lucian ahead. So I would assume for the Viego to spend most of his time down this bot lane and try to facilitate this Kai'Sa Janna and just try to sort of mitigate the amount of pressure and the amount of poke and all-in potential this bot lane of Beast Esports has to offer.
Yeah, it's good that you mentioned the Jace being sorry, Lucian and Jace kind of being the 80 damage dealers here, and it might not even be enough there, or like if the Lucian falls behind, it's gonna be really difficult to pump out that mad 80 damage that you expect from them, because I'm looking at the Jace, and the poke is great into Victor and Kai'Sa, but jumping into these fights will not be easy. They will be extremely difficult. The Kai'Sa will just pop the evolved E, go invisible. You can't really execute with Jace E in hammer form. The Janna could just push you away. Janna could genuinely just cancel your full combo. Like, if Jace's Q gets cancelled, that's a slow and a big portion of damage from your combo gone. Whilst Janna just stands there like looking all smug, right? So yeah, it's not an easy game for the Jace here, but I will say it's like in a similar way, Jace and Lucian have similar win conditions here. The Jace can't really fall too far behind in the early game because, in a similar sense, playing Jace from behind it's rough. And in this particular game, it's really important that the Jace gets ahead because eventually the Victor wave clear will become too powerful. Eventually, the Kai'Sa kiting will become too powerful for the Jace. And if the Jace is slacking behind in terms of gold and item builds, then he won't be able to pump out the poke damage in the mid to late game to be able to punish the lack of range that the Victor and the Kai'Sa has.
Yeah, definitely so. And with that being said as well, it is gonna be imperative for the side of Ragnarok to, like I said earlier, play together as a team because you mentioned that if the Jace combo does end up getting cancelled, he's gonna have a rough time. But Jace is one of those champions where if you're sort of isolated, if you are alone, especially on the side of Ragnarok who don't really have any hard tanks, who don't really have that much frontline outside of the Gnar. And Gnar is not really known for being a giga tank among things like the Malphite, things like the Ornn who just build straight up resistances. Gnar is more of a bruiser who likes to build a Triforce and then proceeds to go into a little bit more tanky of items, could potentially build a hull breaker as well and be a side lane threat for the side of Ragnarok, but I doubt it, as he's pretty much like we said earlier, they're only engaged, and this poke damage, if it does end up going through, could bring a lot of hurt onto the side of Ragnarok, and with not having a lot of frontline to soak that up, it is gonna be, in my opinion, very, very quick fights on the side on both of these sides because there is a lot of squishy champions on both of these teams, and I am just getting worried that we are having some or the players are having some technical difficulties at the moment picking champions, so that's why it's taking a little bit longer than
Good,
usual, but
good
we'll
start.
get
Good
there.
start.
Yeah, we'll,
Yeah,
we'll get there, you know.
we're getting the hard part out the way first, basically. Um,
Exactly.
Yeah. Uh, Actually, one thing I want to bring up is we talked about mid lane not being the most interesting role at the moment to watch, but I think in this particular game, it actually is quite interesting to see because we've got oh well his summoner name is Paschek. I hope I'm saying that right, but when I casted him last, he was playing on an account called Danny 8x8, and he had a really good performance against Interstellar Aquila. And he was up against Zadorzo, who was having who had a fantastic game one, came back in game two on the Ari and was incredible, making plays left, right, center, and kind of carried the early to mid game. And he's up against a player that I actually think is really good. In terms of fundamentals, he definitely hits the spot. And I think I'm just so interested to see like Kraken up against what is his name again? Danny 8x8 or Pass Check. I don't know how to pronounce it. Uh, Hopefully,
That sounds about right.
yeah, hopefully a resident Polish person can help me with that. But yeah, Pass Check against Kraken, two players that are rookies in the SLE this time around, and I think having watched both of them, I'm seeing one player who hits the mechanical ticks, who hits the checkbook of playmaking and being able to make these crazy plays in the middle of a game and going aggressive, which is Paschik. And on the other side, I saw Kraken fundamentally just being sound and being so solid. Like there was this one play I remember of him where he was playing Oriana, he was getting ganked. He just like sidestepped every ability and escaped, and it's like that's one like uh to the naked eye that is quite like it's whatever, he doesn't get anything out of it, but as a control player myself, if you can do that and survive like ganks where you genuinely just should not be surviving, that that's what separates good control mage players to the greatest control mage players, is being able to utilize your fundamentals to get out of sticky situations because there's not much in your kit to help you. So you are just relying on, your natural, not natural, I don't believe in natural abilities really, but you're relying on your abilities to get yourself out, nothing on the champion. It's not like, Fizz where you just press it and you're like, oh, see ya, I guess he's out. So yeah, really, really excited to see this matchup between the two. I can't lie. The last time I hyped up a mid lane matchup, they both just farmed for the whole game. So
Yeah.
I hope I hope that doesn't happen. Because I want to see some fighting. Because like stylistically, you have one player who likes to go aggro, one player who is so good against these aggro type of players. So it's a nice little stylistic matchup here.
Yeah, definitely. I remember that too. It was, I think, the Victor Azir, where you were just hyping up the entire draft,
Yeah,
like, okay,
yeah,
guys, we're gonna look at the micro mechanics, we're gonna look at all these little movements, and we just ended up looking at top lane the entire game.
yeah.
Just
No,
like
no,
nothing in the mid lane happened.
I think what happened was they were playing scaling mages and they both just decided to roam. I was
Yeah.
like, oh no, stop! Play the lane. Yeah. Oh,
This time around, at least there's a Jace, you know, so it might be a little bit more exciting than an
yeah.
Azir Victor matchup.
I mean, to be honest, Azir roams in early game is a bit painful to watch. It's sort of just like
Yeah.
he's actually throwing sand at people. That's all. That's all.
Yeah, definitely nowadays with sort of mage items being the spot where they are, and control mages, like you said earlier, are sort of known for that. They are known as being the champions who don't exactly have the greatest of escape tools in the world, which is why all these little things like the micro movements matter so much. And which is why if you go on YouTube, for example, and you look at guides on control mages, you'll see that a lot where they emphasize all these micro movements, all the decision making, all these little things that matter so much on control mages. And like you said earlier, in the Orianna play as well, if you can trust your mid laner to consistently get out of situations like that, if you can trust your mid laner and leave him to his own devices in situations like that, it creates so much space for you as a team. It creates so much more for you as a jungler as well, to be able to play around that and to be able to be in that situation where you can trust him. And granted, it's not gonna happen every time. You will have times where you sort of just will get run down by the J4 into a cataclysm and you just sit there without flash, just like, now what? But
Yeah.
sometimes it does work out.
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Not all the
I mean,
time.
to be fair, I just hate roaming.
Is this just a solo queue thing? You just don't trust your teammates, or?
Well, it's more just I'm too lazy because
Ah.
Okay, look at it this way, right? You click in river. If enemy bot lane back off, yes, you're creating pressure, but then you got to walk all the way back to your lane, having achieved absolutely nothing. What a waste of my time. Why would I not just like get 100 gold? Anyway, are we in game? Maybe. Okay, guys. Maybe we're in
Soon,
game
soon.
soon. All right. Since it's been a long time since we're in game, I have a question for you. All
Hit
right.
me.
You have you have to order, and we're in game, so we can ignore that question.
Nice.
Um, yes,
Good
we're in
start. Good
game. We're
start.
in game, and we can see Ragnarok already just doing a classic 5 point, and Beast Team Esports going for a cheeky invade. We'll see if anything will happen. Actually, see,
Oh.
ooh, a spell being thrown in the bush means nothing. Nothing really happens. They were able to fish that one out.
Yeah, but Alice is
Wait a
still
minute.
positioning extremely
Less?
aggressively. They're gonna get the
Okay, that's huge.
big XP. Big
They get the
XP.
award. All right. Falionet with a huge gold lead. He's the most fed person in the game right now. I hope he'll be able to snowball off this. Or he might be able to get this ward too.
Oh
Holy.
no. Wait, he does have a sweeper though.
Yeah, he
So
does.
technically he
Yeah,
could get both.
he could. He could. He literally could go to red buff right now. Sweep it. No. No.
Oh, he's not gonna see it coming. It's his sweeper's on a cooldown at the moment. We'll see if he does end up sweeping this once it comes up. And things like early XP can be really good if it's not the jungler. If it is someone like a mid laner or a top laner, getting that level 2 a few minutes before you're meant to can sometimes throw off your laner in the early levels and get you a favorable trade. But looks like it's not gonna be swept away, which means the side of Ragnarok know exactly where Falionet is gonna start, and we'll see how Just Ryan ends up adapting to this. So far, he's gonna start down towards that bot lane on that red buff, and I would assume most of his time is gonna be spent down here, but it does look like Valiant is gonna be clearing on down, which means Josh Ryan is actually gonna be moving towards his top lane. It's looking to help out Squeewill a little bit in the top lane.
Yeah, moving towards the top side, I can imagine there would be potential plays either onto mid lane because you don't really necessarily want to play against an Ornn. I think right now in this point in the game, Viego doesn't shred Ornn as well as he could do as when he completes some items. But I think more importantly, Falionet is on vision, and I do not. I'm assuming Falionet is unaware that he is on vision, so as he passes towards the bot side here, the Ragnarok bot lane will be completely aware and understanding that there is a Talia on their side of the map, whilst their Viego's on the top side.
Yeah, should be. Although we did also see this earlier, Alia still chose to position aggressively into Tribush, so might be looking for some interesting plays down towards that bot lane. Oh no, the cannon. The cannon. That as an ADC main, it just sucks to see that. Just unfortunate cannon.
Yeah.
Okay, Squeeble got his though, so it's a little bit of
Yeah, yeah,
trade-off.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're
The
getting
cannons
there.
on the map.
Yeah,
The
they're
cannons.
getting
Can
there.
we, what we should do, right, is whenever cannons are about to die in each lane, we just pan over to see if they get it. And if they miss, we put them on the list. You missed, and then at the end, we're like, naughty, naughty, you missed your cannon.
No Christmas presents for you, and then we
Getting,
just note
yeah,
down.
getting cannon is the equivalent of eating your vegetables as a child. It's like it's very often missed out, but you just have to do it. Like it's just so much nutrients.
Yeah, not the easiest thing in the world sometimes, but could be seeing an early gank in the mid lane.
Yeah, it could be a gank fella, and that finds the angle onto Kraken. The combo is on point, so Kraken forced the flash. Just Ryan is in the horizon, but it's just going to be the Victor flash down, which it's just a flash, but on a champion like Victor, that is very, very bad.
And we were talking about it earlier. These control mages have generally no escape tools, and Kraken without a flash for the next 5 minutes means once Valiant is gonna hit level 6, once the Weaver's wall comes up, it means that that flash isn't gonna be available for Kraken, and they can potentially look for a play in the mid lane. But we do have a cannon secured in the bot lane, and then it did end up getting pressured on by Ryan in that mid lane.
Yeah, and there's a stacked wave, and he definitely wants to make sure he gets some of this. Won't get pressured wave, so we'll be able to pick that up. And I'm assuming both mid laners will base and TP for the next phase of the mid lane shenanigans. I think one key factor here is there's actually a push coming from the Ragnarok bot lane, despite Lucian potentially wanting to play more aggressive. But obviously, with getting a push, it does open yourself up for more ganks and potential duels, like you see here. If you push in, the Braum will be able to look into the bushes, look for Qs, and if Braum lands a Q, you can almost assume. Whoa, whoa,
Oh,
whoa!
hold on now.
As
What's
I was
going on
mid
here?
sentence, we get a first blood as Squibble will solo kill. Oh gosh. You know, we casted Beast Team on Chi, and we called this guy 2137, and I'm gonna keep doing the same.
That's fair enough. I feel like we might be butchering his name just a little bit if we try to say Siwani too many times.
Shwani Papor.
Wani, Chuani, something along those lines. But we do see him fall early on into the game. It is Squeewill who picked up an early first blood for himself. And yes, Nar does win that matchup, but I still wouldn't expect to see that in a matchup that isn't as one-sided as some top lane matchups can be. A good job from Squeewill to find his own window up there. And this does mean that he does have that Sheen picked up already, which could be a potential issue for Papor up in that top lane if he misplays or if he positions a little bit wrong.
Yeah, I think sometimes the point of picking the Ornn is like you are weak side, you are not to feed the opponent as, and I stop myself as the Mega Gnar is coming out, and the Shwani Papor or 2137 gets shoved against the wall. Just Ryan misses out on the stun, but Squirrel once again picking himself up another kill onto the Ornn. And it's just as I was saying, or not a champion you want to be giving. You pick this champion to not give up too much, and here he is, a 0-2 already into this first game of the series.
And there is no TP as well, which means most of the wave in the top lane, once it gets pushed in by Squeeble, is gonna be missed out on. But this is the lack of flash we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, lack of flash, but Falionet does not use the ultimate very well and is actually forcing himself to flash away as he jumps on the wrong side of the wall. Just Ryan walking up. The WAP is here, so won't be any push forward. Kraken and Danny trading, but a little bit of a misdirection on the Weaver's wall, meaning that Flashless Victor will go unpunished as the flash will be coming up very soon.
A little bit of an oopsie, I want to say, coming out of Falionet, calculating the Weaver's wall a little bit misguided there. And this does mean, like you said, that Kraken should be able to pick his flash back up in just a couple of seconds without being punished, which is very unfortunate for the side of Beast Team Esports, because not only was that... Ooh,
Sorry, he almost
very
got every
nice.
minion. He almost got every minion on the turret. That was
Ooh, that was very close as well, and I'm a little bit impressed, but ended up missing out on the last one. And
yeah,
this does mean that the gank that came earlier from the side of Beast Team Esports is just gonna be sort of negated, because the point of these early ganks, you burn summoners, you get level 6, and then you come back around. But this time he came back around, and all he lost was his own flash, which is less than ideal if you're Valiant.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I've noticed is Danny has just lost his flash and is very low in health and mana. So I think Kraken realizing that the gank attempt failed and his flash is back up, back to playing as oppressive and aggressive as I possibly can. Nonetheless, priority in bot lane means that the dragon will get opened up. I think Kraken will try to fish this one out, but a little bit too late as yeah, this dragon is secure.
Unless...
Wait a minute.
Hold on.
No, wait. Well, yeah. Once you use Eon Victor, you don't really have anything else. I mean, Dragon does get traded by Herald, so I think Ragnarok, you're pretty happy with that. And gold lead in their favor right now, despite mid and bot lane being slightly behind in farm. You have Squibble in the top lane. Just Ryan just secured the Herald, and they're definitely looking good.
Yeah, it's honestly not a bad trade, and Squeeble being up by 800 gold already. Everywhere else on the map, it is pretty even. You see Mum Feet being up by a couple hundred gold, but that's about it. And I would expect this
Oh,
Herald to switch things
Did
up.
you see that? Did you see that?
I...
Oh, wait, whoa.
Hold on now.
Once again, another solo kill in top lane. 2137 is being spotted out by Just Ryan. Just Ryan trying to do as much damage as he can, but that is a tanky Ornn. He's got the Balmy Cinder and the Chain Vest completed, and this Viego just has a Sheen, so doesn't have the shredding capabilities as he usually would. 20 per pour might get the solo kill on Just Ryan. Just Ryan forced to flash away, and the low HP Ornn almost grabbing himself a kill, another kill there, as I have no idea how a 2-0 Gnar has just fallen to the hands of a 0-2 Ornn. But that has happened, and gold lead now even. Alias now being pressured by Falionet as he is in the bot lane, but as junglers always do, he will prioritize the jungle camp instead of finishing the kill. So Seabreeze, sorry, Seabreeze and Alias will run away with their lives. And, you know, on my screen, Kaisa does not have any summoners, so Beast Team Esports will be very happy with that.
I'm a little bit confused as to what just happened. First of all, Papor manages to pick up, like you said, a kill onto a 2-0 Squeeble in the top lane. Kraken,
yeah, good sense to fish that out, but Beast Team Esports, they are on the look. Falionet and Danny, the WAP, they are walking in, but no spells being landed at the moment. There goes the E. The W is a whiff. Just Ryan will get the reset here as the kill goes to Kraken. The WAP is next on the menu. Just Ryan uses the ultimate forward. Quite misses out on the W, but it's going to be the laser from Kraken to finish off the kill. 2 kills into the hands of the victor is exactly what Ragnarok ordered.
the feet are good from WAP, but just not good enough, and great. Absolute amazing vision coming through for Ragnarok, seeing that they could go for that play. Yes, they were down in numbers, but Just Ryan is just so damn strong on this his champion, and same with Kraken on the Victor as well. The Victor Viego duo coming through very clutch there in that bot side jungle. Like you said, this means Kraken gets himself early 2 kills, and this is what you want on a control mate. This is what you want on a scaling champion as the Weaver's Wall comes into the mid lane.
Yeah, Weaver's Wall, the combo
Oh,
is going to be flipped onto the wrong side. So once again, Falionet kind of whiffing on the Talia combo and wasted opportunity there. A flashless Victor with a Weaver's Wall. That should have been a dead Hextech machine, but unfortunately he was able to. I mean, I don't know if that was a PayPal situation, but he was flipped over to safety. But yeah, no, as you mentioned, Kraken, I think. Oh, actually, I'm gonna watch this as Mammon Feet and the WAP are pushing forward aggressively. Q landed onto Seabreeze, but no abilities on the Lucian means the back off button gets hit. But yeah, no, I wanted to say 2 kills on Kraken. I think specifically for Victor, this means you get your upgrades a lot faster than you usually do, because Victor's you kind of just wave clear and farm in the early game. But getting 2 kills on the board, meaning you're very, very close to that perfect tech score.
yeah, in a very similar situation when you have on Syndra as well. A couple of early kills can get you a long way around. So far, I will admit I'm not entirely impressed with Falionet's ultimate, but we do see him go up towards his top lane, seeing if he can get a potential lane gank on Squivel. But with the wave being positioned the way it is, he's gonna have to play the long game if he does want to pull that off, but he's gonna think better of it, gonna back away. And with this Herald spawning up very soon as well, you do see the top side aggression coming from Beast Team Esports. And so far, this top lane has been an absolute bloodbath for both teams, which is exactly actually what we expected in the draft.
Bloodbath indeed, and I think more importantly, this is the one lane I didn't expect much to be happening in. And, yeah, and I mean, kind of on the note of the Falionet, unfortunately misplaying two occasions. Oh, that's toxic. That's really toxic. Understandably, I think with the Talia, it is very difficult to hit your combo without any setup, and Jace doesn't have any CC, so there's not much setup there from the Jace. So it's understandable as to why some of these have been haven't gone his way, but yeah, the WAP and Just Ryan will encounter each other in the jungle, but due to a numbers advantage, Beast Team Esports will play passive just for now. Danny 8x8 is around in the wings. Shock blasts are so big in these dragon contests, because you land a big shock blast, that means the go button for your team. I don't think there's going to be a contest, as Beast Team Esports will handshake over the dragon, as Ragnarok in a fantastic position now. They've secured the Herald in the early game. They've got a small gold lead, but they are 4 kills up, and they've got themselves a second dragon of the game.
And most importantly, it's not just a few hundred gold lead. Where is that gold at? Most of that gold is on Kraken with the 2 kills he got, which is exactly the person who you wanted on. Him and Alias are gonna be the main tools.
Oh yeah, and once again, top lane Bloodbath has started out trying to pause, sees the Viego mist, and runs away with the ghost with the spellbook, meaning he will utilize that Keystone rune to get himself away. And yeah, I definitely agree that the gold is on the right members, and Kraken is in a prime position to be a big threat. And we said it before in the early game, where this becomes so difficult for Danny is if he falls behind against the Victor, and he has already. And CS wise he's keeping up well, but we can see already in the trades it's very, very difficult for him. As another fight in the top lane, Valiant lands this combo this time, and Squirrel will fall. Just Ryan using the mist to create some pressure. Falionet walking in confidently, but look at the backup. Just Ryan has that fed Victor to back him up, and look at the damage. The Chaos Storm is not going to be used just yet. Down it goes, and 24 is left to run to the Landry's. It is burning up. Danny has arrived though. Kraken flashes away to safety, followed by Danny, but he uses the gate to get away. Just Ryan is sandwiched between Jace and an Ornn right now, but Ornn being low HP, and Danny not really aware of his positioning means it's going to be a back off. But once again, another kill for Kraken, and he gets away with his life in such a clutch way. That was great to watch.
Manages to save his shot down by the skin of his teeth with a beautiful Hexgate blade. The Heartbreaker as well was massive. Coming up just right, hitting both members, and Kraken getting a little bit caught out there. Did end up flashing over the wall. Danny with a flash follow-up, but the Hexgate play is just so damn clean, and
I
that is the sort of creativity Kraken can bring.
I want to watch this back later because I want to see how close Jace's
Oh, for sure.
Jace had W1 in hammer form. I want to see how close that was to touching Kraken and interrupting that potential escape. So, oh, not potential escape because he got it off. But yeah, fantastic situation again for Ragnarok as they secure themselves a herald. They drop in a mid lane and first turret of the game goes in their hands.
Oh, for sure. That is gonna be one I feel like gonna be wanting to watch back. Kraken could look for a potential steal, but Squeeble is around. If they do wanna end up taking this fight, could opt out of that as they are gonna be down on members. But so far we are seeing as well Danny had to opt, well, not had to, but ended up opting into the Hex Drinker, which does delay his build just that much more.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
Beast Team Esports are looking to create pressure on bot lane now as Falionet will take down Alias, but look at the backup. There is a Victor Janna on the horizon, but I don't think they'll be doing anything aggressive as Beast Team Esports. They had to make that play on the timer, and they did it just in time to get the kill, get the turret, and get away. As there's another fight in the top lane. As I think that is just the call of the Forge God. As we can see, Chwani Papoor probably knows Just Ryan is here, using the ultimate aggressively, trying to clear the wave, but it's not going to be enough. Sidesteps away from the stun, and Just Ryan uses the Heartbreaker to deal the damage and secure himself his first kill of the game.
And Ragnarok just again pulling another lead in. Valiant is around with the wall, but is not gonna have the backup necessary.
Oh, actually, jump forward from Squirrel is gonna do some damage to Valiant. It does not have the Mega Gnar, so won't be anything else but that and lack of summoner spells, meaning Ragnarok will back off as Valiant. He did have a few mishaps on the Victor, but he's landed some great combos ever since, and he's got himself 2 kills. Looking at his items, he's actually quite strong in the game right now.
Yeah, definitely managed to redeem himself a little bit in towards this mid game from the couple of early game mishaps he did end up having in that mid lane. But we do see Danny as well having that Duskblade finished up. Finally, Sunfire Aegis in the inventory of Papoor means that slowly but surely the Beast team members are getting their items in, and the gold lead is only 600 or 500 towards Ragnarok, which does mean that at this stage of the game, it's not that much. You see 2 items on Kraken, and that is their main damage dealer. That is the main carry that they want to be playing on for the moment, as Ragnarok are looking for their second dragon of the game.
They're looking for their second dragon, and as we can see, Ragnarok are first. They are there early to the objective, and at the moment there's no response from Beast Team Esports, but they know that this has been started. Danny 8x8 throws a shock blast, but it's on a target that won't deal lethal amounts of damage, as it will just be an uncontested dragon once again. And more importantly, there was a move from Chwani Papoor into mid lane, which opens up Squirrel to take down top turret.
And this is Beast Team Esports.
Actually, a fight here as Valiant. It lands another beautiful combo onto Just Ryan, having to use the Heartbreaker to get out. Top lane turret gets secured, but that's just going to be the end of the fight. But you can expect these 2 top laners will start duking it out. Squirrel kiting, using the mechanics like an AD carry, but he is our top lane as he pushes forward. Chwani Papoor, joke's on you. Here comes the call of the Forge God and the Weaver's Wall. The Gnar has just blown the flash. Valiant, this is a great Weaver's Wall, much better than the last, as Squirrel is pressured out. He's 1 hit from death, and that is going to be the smite to finish off the Gnar.
And it only took 20 minutes and 50 seconds for it to get a good wall in.
Extra fighting. Seabreeze is caught out in the mid lane, does have the flash available, but isn't even going to use it as Malmonfeet flashes forward after the culling to secure himself. First game of the
This should be a Baron call. This should be an immediate Baron call.
Baron call indeed. And actually, we see Kraken on the bot lane. He's just pushed in the wave and gotten the turret. So he will back and teleport. He's teleported right into the middle of the team. What is that TP? He's going to be able to get away, and Kraken doing so much damage. Here comes the killer instinct from Alice, and the Baron buff is left on 2k HP. Danny 8x8 lets a flash over the turret. Fantastic stopwatch to stop the execute from Just Ryan. Here goes the chase onto the Ragnarok jungler, but whether he's going to be able to get away, I believe, as Mamonfi doesn't have the tools to chase him, and the Baron has secured Ragnarok in cruise control of this game.
How the hell does Kraken get away with that? Absolutely miraculously played by the side of Ragnarok. Just look at this TP into 4 members, knowing exactly his limits, knowing exactly what he does, and the insta-flash as soon as he gets out of the pit. Baits so many cooldowns out from the side of Beast Team Esports, and then it's just clean up crew for the side of Ragnarok. A beautiful follow-up from Just Ryan, but the stopwatch is so damn clean from Danny, but it is still Ragnarok who are the big winners. It is Ragnarok who have the Baron buff and the 3,000 gold lead.
That was a really interesting play from Kraken. That fantastic damage we saw from him to burst down key members of Beast Team Esports. But I had to be critical. That Victor has to die there. There's no way that Victor does not die there. I watched on the replay. There was like a whole second that Victor was just left alone as the culling is going to be used to try to wave clear, but Kraken says, get off my minion wave. Look at the Chaos Storm burning down the whack, and Kraken goes dominating 6-0 on the Victor, dealing so much damage, even onto a Braum, as the pursuit onto the base of Beast Team Esports starts right now. There is no answer so far. The Call of the Forge Gold is available as the inhibitor is being targeted. That is the focus right now for Ragnarok, and it's going to be the objective taken down. Mid inhibitor taken, kills on the board, and Kraken putting in an MVP performance right now.
A stupendous amount of work coming out of the Ragnarok mid laner for the moment. It is him who's gonna be on 3 items, I'm assuming, once he finishes his... Actually, just shy. If we can quickly go get the gold, I just want to see how far away he is. Actually, just 600 gold.
Deficit.
Yeah.
He took a loan. No, I'm joking.
Wait, he went to the banks. 600 gold off of the Rabadons on the Victor, and once
in this current economic climate, taking loans. It's actually fine. It's actually fine. I'm joking.
Inflation, man, inflation. Times are tough. Look at the Hex Drinker in his inventory. He needed the damage. He needs something, and definitely needs to be a hero for Beast Team Esports if they want to do something. Feet at this point is not exactly behind, but he's just not on par with Ragnarok. And we talked about this in Champs League. We talked about this before the game. Lucian, who falls behind, who isn't ahead, is not a very useful member of the team. This is a champion that needs to get ahead to be able to do damage, to be able to put some hurt onto the enemy members. And so far, he just hasn't been able to find the angle, hasn't been able to find any kills on this Braum Lucian bot lane. And it has just been Kraken who's been running over the side of Ragnarok, and again, just look at how aggressive they're allowed to position.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of why Lucian definitely has fallen off. Is he does pair well with Braum passive, but in terms of like champion for champion, he is much better facilitated by enchanters. As Johnny Papour actually has a really good position here to do some form of engage, as Just Ryan, Kraken, Seabreeze all grouped up together, not going to spread apart, grouped together like a herd of penguins in the winter. Anyway, as the focus is on blue buff, whilst Elder Drake is not Elder Drake, well, Hextech Drake is being taken, and once again we see Beast Team Esports aware of an objective take, but not doing anything to answer for it. Very good objective play from Ragnarok, and potentially lackluster objective play from Beast Team. There's a fight. Valiant is being jumped on by Just Ryan. The CC is being layered. The Heartbreaker being used to get away, but it's not going to be enough as Valiant goes on a killing spree. 4 kills for the Talia. And Just Ryan, such a stable player for this roster, unfortunately making a crucial mistake.
A misstep coming out from Just Ryan. Luckily, it is him and not Kraken who is carrying that 600 shutdown gold, which would be crucial for the side of Beast Team Esports to pick up if they can get their hands on it. But this does mean with Just Ryan falling, the pacing of the game for the side of Ragnarok is going to be delayed by just a little bit, because they need to wait for Just Ryan to respawn. This Viego is very, very strong and an important key member of the side of Ragnarok. But with him overstepping a little bit in the bot side jungle, it means they're going to be having to wait around for him to respawn. And this is potential window for Beast Team Esports to use this to their advantage, or it was, as Just Ryan has finally respawned back onto the Rift. And unfortunately, as a Beast team, ooh, that I feel like if that Void Seeker lands right
Yeah,
there,
if that landed.
potential one shot from the Kais. You know those YouTube moments where you just land a Void Seeker and you see the Kais like absolutely one shot someone?
YouTube, that happens in my solo queue. Bloody, oh my god, and Kaiser lands W on me from Narnia, and I'm just dead apparently. So, yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely that was potentially a full-on committal from Alias to jump on Mammon Feet. But actually, you know, one thing I have to say, Mammon Feet is building towards his third item, which will be the Lord Dominic's, which will give him a lot of tools to take down the Viego and Gnar on the side of Ragnarok. But one thing to point out is Jace's 3-item power spike is one of the strongest in the game, and he is slowly approaching that. Now, I do think Ragnarok scaling is better, but you know, let's say this Victor shutdown goes into the hands of Danny or
Oh my god. Jesus
yeah,
Christ.
Kraken looked at Mammon Feet and he almost died. So, yeah, this is a really concerning situation now for Beast Team Esports because Ragnarok, they've already started up the Baron and your AD carry is already having to recall. So, eyes on Danny. He's going to have to land these Shock Blast. Valiant already missing the combo. Call of the Forge God. Kraken is kind of stuck in the pit. He does have the flash. Just Ryan is going to fall. Rampage for Valiant. In the pit is the Ord. He is going to be by himself, so he's going to fall down too. Watch the Mega Gnar. Godlike goes Kraken. Squirrel is going to be the front liner for his team for now. Kraken stepping forward. Huge Shock Blast onto the back line of Ragnarok. Mammon Feet has arrived onto the scene. 4 versus 4. Lasers aren't quite landing, so Kraken not doing the amount of damage that is expected of him right now. Valiant is in the bush trying to wait for anyone to walk up, but it's just going to be a 1-for-1 trade right now. And Beast Team Esports, when you're behind and the enemy team has started up the Baron, this is not too bad and you're not too upset with this one.
Beautiful Comet coming out of Papor there. They saw him start the Baron and they were just, listen, we gotta go in here. This Baron cannot go uncontested. They find Just Ryan, the jungler, is exactly who you need to get, and Kraken is looking for potential pick. He's very positioning very aggressively there considering he had no vision, but big shot blast in the mid lane means that this potential engage coming through on Beast Team Esports, and it does have to be Mammon Feet who has finally reached his 3 items alongside Danny, who are the biggest damage dealers. And I just want to point out the fact that both mages, the Talia and the Victor in this game, have literally the exact same items outside of like a stopwatch and an amplifying tool. You can just tell which AP items are really just in fashion at the moment.
Yeah, it's so cool because I'm a mid laner myself. It's really cool watching other roles talk about build paths and like new items that they can try out. Where I'm just sitting there like, yeah, that's cool. You know, I'll just rush my lost chapter that I have been doing for the last like 3 years of playing League. As Valiant is arriving in the top lane, the combo is very difficult to hit on the Gnar as Squirrel will just jump away here. And more importantly, your jungler is in top lane whilst there is a very important Dragon Soul spawning, and you have to imagine if Ragnarok secure this, yeah, we saw the amount of damage Kraken was doing without this soul. Once he secures this, you can imagine how much damage he's going to be doing. Valiant is able to arrive here on time. Squirrel is going to continue his pursuit in top lane as his teleport is ready to go. So, using the teleport early, and I want to see where his Mega Gnar, but it is completely down. So, there is no Mega Gnar, and this could be actually a decent opportunity for Beast Team Esports. The Chaos Storm gets dropped early. The Dragon is secured. Seabreeze brought to 1 HP. The focus is on Kraken. Mammon Feet has found his angle, but he's all alone into the Victor. Just Ryan picks up the first kill of the fight. The WAP is down. The support Braum shield is no more. Shut down for Squirrel onto Valiant at Mammon Feet in the 1v1. Does not win out. Danny and Juani Papor lands good damage, but they are left to retreat. The Dragon Soul secured, and that's going to be the push on for Ragnarok.
And Just Ryan picks himself up an early reset in that fight, and just the fight at that point is over for the Beast Team Esports. I have to commend Mammon Feet, though. He tried to find Kraken. He knows who the target is for Ragnarok to take down, but the stopwatch just buys so much damn time. And like you said, in the team fight, he is just so alone that there was just nothing. You can't outdamage the Victor as the Lucian at this stage into the game, and it is just Beast Team Esports, who, like you said, lose the Dragon Soul, Hextech Soul, first time Ragnarok, triple Hextech Dragons, which means Kraken's cooldowns are gonna be next to nothing, alongside an 8,000 gold lead.
Yeah, Kraken is putting in a stellar performance here on the Victor, and I think more essentially, Beast Team Esports, they looked like they were a little bit confused on what to prioritize there. They were late on the objective, they were late on starting the fight, and you know, if you're, oh my god, what on earth am I witnessing? Look at the damage that Kraken does, and now Alias has come online with those Kaiser W's, landing insane amounts of damage herself, and it's a similar situation once again. Beast Team Esports get pushed out with the sheer firepower that is in this Ragnarok squad right now, as their bot laner, their safety has left to recall, and once again it's gonna have to be the objective being given over for absolutely free as a Valiant. Maybe that was close. That was close. I respect it. I respect it. You gotta go for that sometimes. Yeah, anyway, Kraken 9-0 on this Victor, and you just can't help but feel like there is nothing that this Beast Team Esports draft can do against this Giga-fed mid laner right now.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, Kraken is extremely fed, and I do agree with you. When you're down 10k gold, those are sort of moments where you might as well just say, screw it, I might as well go for it, see what happens. If I get the Baron, cool. It's gonna delay the game longer, maybe that's a good window. And if it doesn't, we're gonna lose a game we were already losing to begin with, so it's not a huge deal if he doesn't get away with that. This time doesn't end up getting the Baron. Baron goes towards Ragnarok and using it now to push in that top lane, trying to triple inhib the side of Beast Team Esports and slowly but surely dismantling them piece by piece.
Yeah, and the Beast Team Esports, you can't help but feel they are slowly but surely burning out as Charlie Papour, he's not even looking tanky himself, and a lot is on Danny as Just Ryan looks for the engage, using the Heartbreaker to get away. Look at the Chaos Storm onto Valiant, and Mammon Feet left to run to the Nexus turret. And Squirrel jumps on Valiant's head, securing himself that kill. The Wap is left with 1 HP. Danny landing the shock blast that he can. Watch trying to pour onto Squirrel, but he's just an Orm by himself. There is no Fed Talia there. Squirrel brought to 1 HP. That's going to be a decent engage as Lucian picks up 2 kills in the fight, but that's not going to be enough as the Nexus falls. First game going over to Ragnarok.
Ragnarok take game number 1 in a pretty dominating fashion, coming out from them, and 9,000 gold lead. 9 or 11,000, one of those numbers, but the gold lead is substantial nonetheless, coming out from them. And what a showing from Kraken. Picks himself up 2 early kills, and those 2 early kills were enough for him to absolutely just run over the side of Beast Team Esports and ends up the game with a very good stat line for himself. I believe he went deathless in that game as well on the side of the Victor, and a very impressive showing from not just Kraken but the entire squad of Ragnarok.
Yeah, you know, as I said, Kraken is one of those exciting players that have come into the SLE, and you know, as I said, I was watching him when he played against Gucci Yang, and I noticed like he has some great fundamentals, and watching a performance like that, like it's just fantastic to watch because good control mage players at this level is hard to find. So watching Kraken operate that Victor in that game was incredible. You saw the amount of damage that he was putting out, and when you play against a player like that who's that fed in the middle of a game, you're kind of feeling like the pressure on your shoulders in real life because like he's just so strong. It feels like you can't do anything. You're sort of just trapped in the map, and like we are just gonna eventually lose because this Victor is just so strong. We can't walk into any choke point. We can't walk into any channel. It's like Braum, Ornn, Lucian, Jace into a choke point. Wet dream for them, but up against Kraken on this Victor, definitely not. So great performance from him, but I have to be critical. I take your mind back to Kraken's flash being blown super early into the game. And a lot of the times I've seen Victors in this scenario go like 0-10 or 0-7 and not, and like they're basically tickling people, right? And you have to feel those whiffs on those Talia ults, like I think it happened twice, was just so crucial when in hindsight because of how fed that Victor eventually became. So I think going into the next game, if I was on the side of Beast Team Esports, bit more attention maybe into the mid lane because it is definitely exploitable. We saw he did, it was a fantastic performance, but it was by no means perfect. That teleport into Baron Pit kind of just got ignored. But definitely like if you do not punish this mid laner, he will completely run over your team.
Yeah, definitely. So Kraken definitely gets my award for the most
Oh yeah, for sure.
aggressive
Not even,
TP
not even
on
close.
mages that like I've ever seen. Homie
Yeah,
TP'd straight into Baron Pit into 4 or 5 people and just looked at them in the face and said, "Okay, now what?" type thing,
yeah,
and
yeah.
ends up just flashing out as well. And I have to give my props over to Squirrel as well. Ended up getting a couple of solo kills in that game and sort of just dumped on Papor in the laning phase.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
I, I like you said, you gotta be critical. I wasn't entirely impressed with Fali and Talia in that game. Like you said, a couple of crucial mistakes in the early game. Not being able to kill Kraken when his flash is down is it's gotta feel bad when you're running a Jace into a Victor matchup. Jace, a champion that needs to snowball, a champion that, especially against a scaling champion like Victor, wants to look for these early kills, and when you can't find them, it's gotta feel bad if you are Danny in that situation. And I would expect for something to change on sort of Beast Team Esports because they were not looking that good in game number one.
Yeah, honestly, I think at times the Talia did look really good. Falinet got himself very far ahead into that game at some point and was actually ahead of Just Ryan. But I think the thing about Talia flexes and flex picks in general is that, I mean, specifically with Talia, it's traditionally a mid laner and it's not mechanically the most, easy champion. It is hard to pull off the combo. So when it comes to flexes, you're always kind of like it's probably better in the hands of a mid laner than on the jungler, but it kind of depends. It differs from team to team, and I think in that case, it didn't look like he was completely uncomfortable, but it definitely looks like there wasn't a full confidence in operating the Talia to maximum efficiency. Like we have seen some good Talias in the SLE. I think Obsidian in Gichigen's first game, and I think there was a really good Talia performance from one of the teams against. I think it was either Vitagen or I don't know if Vitagen played Talia. It was either Vitagen or
I
Pan.
think they do.
It was either Vitagen or Blazing Pandas, I'm not sure. But yeah, we have seen good Talias in the SLE, but definitely a champion that you can't just like pick it up and expect like, yeah, I got this, You got to put some time and practice into that for sure. As we head into the second draft of the game, and Beast Team Esports, they are on blue side this time around. So, one issue for them was access to objectives on blue side. It is easier to get into those pits and making sure that you secure yourself these important objectives. And yeah, draft already started. Zaya first picked and Faris Viego to answer.
Definitely so, and already seeing an adaptation come through clearly. These Team Esports don't want to face up against Kraken's Victor once more, so they chose to take it away in the first banning phase this time around. It is going to be Beast Esports, interestingly enough, with the Talia pick this time very early on into the draft as well. Again, like last time, it is a potential flex towards that mid and jungle role. Jesus Christ. As it was Zaya first pick up from the side of Beast Team Esports. Like I said, entered with the Varus, and it'll be interesting to see what the supports end up being for either side here, Varus. And we opted with a lot of things, but it's a Pantheon lock-in, and this could be either bot lane or the top lane.
I love this because you can basically put this combo anywhere. Like, you could put Pantheon top, Talia jungle. You could put Pantheon mid, Talia jungle. You could put Talia mid, Pantheon jungle. You could put Talia Pantheon in. You can't put them bot lane because there's already Zaya, unless Zaya can play mid randomly, right? But yeah, no, yeah, you could do that. Pantheon support, and then you could put Talia support. I have seen that.
Put Zaya support. Screw it.
Yeah, screw it. Do it. Beast Team Esports. If you don't put this Zaya support, you're just wrong. Okay.
I agree.
Nah, jokes aside, and once again, Beast Team Esports putting some faith into this Talia pick, and once again, he did whiff on 2 really important occasions. But if we look at take the game as a whole, he did have a decent performance. It was just a bit unfortunate that the 2 mistakes were as essential as it ended up being. But this time, I think one issue with that Talia was the lack of setup. This time around, you have a Pantheon. This is one of Talia's favorite combinations to do. It's a really simple. Pantheon literally runs forward, presses the magic W key, and then Talia can just do whatever she wants, and that guy's dead. So simple as that, and I like the Fiora adaptation here because that parry, that even if you're kind of old man hands reaction to the first one, there's so much like CC or displacements that will follow after that you can just use it for. So I like the Fiora pick. I don't know if you can QW into Talia's rock field, the E, but we'll see. As yeah, second round of bans, and it's just the full 4 support ban.
Yeah, these might be the 3 most like at least the most meta supports we do tend to see so far. It is gonna be the Leona locked in. Interesting enough, for the side of Ragnarok paired alongside that Varus should be, I was gonna say the Rel in response, which is the pick we generally tend to see into the Leona, a very good sort of tank insert into another tank, Rel being very good at the moment as well. It does mean that you do still have that flex available. Rel can go into the jungle, into the support pantheon. Same thing, cannot go into the jungle necessarily, but can still go into that support role, into that top lane role, depending on which matchup they want. I would expect the pantheon to go top lane into this Fiora, as it does tend to be, or on the side of Beast Team Esports, their top laner does tend to play quite a bit of Pantheon, and it'll be interesting to see what the last pick ends up being, because it is gonna tell us a lot about where Beast Team Esports are choosing to send this Talia and this Rel over. I would assume it is gonna be another meta champion coming through, and it's gonna be the Jace once more for the side of Beast Team Esports, and looking a very similar comp to last time.
Very similar indeed. And Beast Team Esports, what I like is, even though the game one didn't go their way, this is, I mean, by the looks of it, they have practiced this, and these are champions that they are good at. So they're gonna stick to what they want to play and what they've prepared for this matchup. So I like that. I respect that you are not disrespecting the preparation that you've done going into this, and sticking to it. Whereas Ragnarok here, they are gonna go for the Orianna. Bit of a self-counter pick, but if you play that first game like you did, you can do what you want, I guess. I accept this challenge, but yeah, Orianna into Jace, not the best matchup. Actually, looking across the board, Orianna actually quite a difficult champion to play here, in my opinion. I think there's just a lot of stuff that can punish you, like Pantheon Talia roams with a Jace poke from Narnia. Looks pretty rough, but I think looking at the composition of Ragnarok, you can layer the Shockwave on top of a Leona. If you get the executes off, the Viego can get the resets and pop off in the middle of a team fight. So, yeah, in that sense, it's a decent pick. But personally, I think I would have gone for something a bit like not as immobile as the Orianna. Obviously, if you are a control mage player, the Victor is banned out. I'm not sure what his champion pool is, but if it's being pinched, then respect to Beast Team Esports for doing that and pushing him towards this Orianna. But yeah, definitely something with more mobility was required here. As a just looking at it, the 2 backliners of Ragnarok is a Varus and Orianna, which means Talia and Pantheon. That's a bit of a field day for them.
Yeah, definitely so. And I do know that Kraken does play quite a little bit of LeBlanc. I'm not entirely sure if it would have been the ideal pick into
Oh
the
yeah,
Beast
yeah.
Team Esports, but definitely would have offered you some of that mobility that you mentioned earlier. And it's gonna be a tough game to survive. You're looking at facing down a Pantheon W point and click stun into a Talia follow-up, which we brought up earlier as well, being a very good duo in themselves, alongside a Rel, a lot more engaged this time around on the side of Beast Team Esports. And on the other side, Ragnarok, just very sort of bog standard champions across the board. Leona Varus is a combo that has been rising up a little bit more in the meta, as well as Leona coming through as well, and as another option if you want to lock in one of those engaged supports, and all the other options are taken away as they were this game. No Nautilus, no Rakan, no Braum, like the top 3 supports everybody's playing now. So definitely good to see some adaptation coming through from Ragnarok, and Viego just doing so well in that first game. Just Ryan as well, getting so many of those crucial resets with his Heartbreaker should be able to bring that mentality on into the next game. And we talk a lot about momentum as well. And momentum this time around is gonna be on the side of Ragnarok. Does have that Viego up again, but outside of the Viego, it is gonna be 4 new champions that Ragnarok didn't play in game number 1. So we'll see how that ends up piloting into the situation, how they end up piloting those champions themselves, and seeing if Ragnarok truly can be as versatile as they say.
Yeah, versatility is an impressive trait of any team, but it is, of course, a very big risk because, looking at it, that first game went so well, and often teams in pro play and SLE, if game one goes that well, very, very strange to then go for something completely different. That is often what teams do if they lose the first game. So we're either going to see an impressive showing of versatility from Ragnarok, or a big mistake and a sign of disrespect potentially for the opponents. Going kind of just going like, we can pick whatever, and you know, we kind of not stomp them, but the first game definitely was dominating as
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm curious to see how that one goes. But before we talk about anything else, I'd like to thank 2 people who have used their Twitch Prime to subscribe. So Lena T2, thank you very much. For the 2 months, and for CyberTub7, thank you very much for the 2 months as well. I hope you continue to use your Prime subs for us, as the SLE is a fantastic home for all of us, and we love to see it. Have you used your Prime sub yet on SLE channel, Mr. Dason?
I don't have a Prime sub, interestingly enough, but
Oh, sorry for
I
asking.
I was along the lucky people when I don't know who it was, and unfortunately I do apologize, don't remember the username, but dropped a like 24 gifted subs, I think, or
Oh,
something along those lines, and it was either 24 or 12, I think. I was along the lucky people to have been. Yeah, it was. I'm getting word that it was 20, the exact number, which means neither of the numbers I
27.
brought up
Wow.
was right. But
In between, in between. This one.
yeah, exactly. It's getting there. But I was one of the lucky people to have received that, and I don't remember the username, unfortunately. But after this month, I will no longer have access to all the fancy emotes that Peppa set up before the stream, which is a little bit
No.
upsetting. But one, we'll
Nah,
get
well,
there. We'll get
do you know what? Do you know what? We're gonna start a campaign. It's gonna be hashtag get Dasa his sub.
there. I'm
Uh,
gonna start a
and
GoFundMe
yeah,
page
yeah. See, we're gonna
for
we're gonna
SLE
hopefully get
stuff.
loads of people contributing to this. It was really funny. So I was on a Twitch stream, like gifting tons of subs, and I was watching the stream with Ruzu, top laner for Gucci Yang, and everyone was getting subs except for him. And he was like, "What the hell? What is going on?" And I hope that happens to you.
Wow.
Oh no, no, no! I'm joking.
Hold on,
I'm
no.
joking. I didn't go there. I think.
Hold
See,
on,
now
no.
I feel like karma is gonna bite me in the ass and not in game.
Uh,
And now it's gonna be me.
it'd be unfortunate if you get muted on the Twitch stream. Anyway, it's
Yeah, that's racist.
I disagree.
Anyway, yeah, okay. So first game was quite dominant from Ragnarok, and going into the second game, Data, looking at both drafts, is there a particular side that you are currently favoring?
Ooh, okay. So are we basing this purely on draft?
Yeah,
Purely on this tension? Ooh, okay.
draft
Okay.
only.
I feel like I have to side with Beast Team Esports here. They have so much point and click ability. They have so much CC. I don't see realistically an Insta Ragnarok has. The only thing that I feel like might be an issue later on into the game is gonna be this Fiora. Fiora is sort of known for countering things like the Pantheon, countering things like the Aatrox, a single-handedly the best pick you can pick into Aatrox, which tends to be what people opt into, and a very good pick into the Pantheon as well. And later on, definitely can beat up the Pantheon pretty well in a side lane. So if she gets any sort of lead whatsoever, if she can get into that Spear of Sojin, if she can get into that potential hull breaker, which I wouldn't be entirely against this game. The side of Breeze Team Esports, if he ends up opting for the hull breaker, realistically has no response into that unless you want to send the Talia into that side of the map. But that again means that you are going to be outnumbered on the other side. It means you could potentially get free objectives. We tend to not see the Fiora build Hullbreaker too much in a 5v5 setting, but we could potentially see it this game. I wouldn't be entirely opposed to it, but we're going to have to see if he's confident enough in his Fiora to be opting into that. And it's going to be, I feel like, a rough game for both teams. I feel like these are two very sort of different comps, very eccentric comps coming out. A lot of champions that we tend to not see too often, but I feel like it should be a good game, and it is gonna be Ragnarok. We're gonna have the momentum going into this game. But what do you think? Do you agree with me, or would you side with all our good friends over at Ragnarok?
Honestly, I think this Oriana pick was kind of the roundup of me leaning over to the Beast Team Esports composition. I just think picking Oriana here is like even the way Beast Team Esports composition is set up, they don't want to group too much with each other. And of course, Oriana, if she does get ahead in the laning phase, then those shockwaves will be lethal. They will genuinely be one shots. But then that comes off being ahead in the laning phase up against a Jace, which is not usually the best matchup for her. This is a matchup where Jace can get loads of solo kills, and I've seen this matchup being played. I've played this matchup on both sides actually, and it's like in a way it's a skill matchup, but because Jace is like a poke slash bruiser slash assassin slash ADC champion, and you know Oriana's just a control mage. Jace often, you know, wins out. Like you land like 2 or 3 shock blasts, you can jump in with the movement speed that you get from the acceleration gate, and then Oriana's kind of left as a sitting duck because, you know, as I said, you are very mobile. What I really like here is Danny has gone for first strike this time around, and I think this was the one thing that I was not too keen on, that he went for the phase rush up against the Victor, because I understand you want to jump in, trade quickly, then run away. But if you are, you know, playing Jace into Victor, you want to utilize your range. You want to make sure you get as much poke damage as possible. And the best way to do that is first strike. And if you hit those Qs, especially in lane, you get extra gold. They stack up as you keep hitting those EQs. And you know, you just get loads of gold and income from that. And it's, you know, as I said, Jace up against these control mages, the reason why it is good is because you are a rare occasion where, as an AD mid laner, you outrange these mages. So, yeah, I definitely think just because of the Oriana pick, and I really would love if Ragnarok shut me up and this Oriana goes crazy this game, bro. But yeah, I just think that Oriana pick is not. I'm not a big fan of it, as we are unfortunately in a pause. Some issues with the top laner of Beast Team Esports, as we're not at LAN, we are online, but you know, if you guys keep doing it into the Twitch, maybe we'll get to LAN. Oh, I don't want to make any promises. That yeah,
Split 6 will be land, don't worry, guys.
Split 6 will be LAN to reduce costs and ensure maximum revenue. It will be hosted in Maldives. Actually, that's an expensive country, isn't it?
Yeah,
Let's go
Linus
with
is gonna just rent out a big warehouse in the middle of India somewhere.
yeah,
Just
exactly.
what's this side?
No, let's go with Zanzibar. I'm pretty sure it's cheap over there.
Oh, it's gonna be right.
Yeah. What about ping? Well, everyone will have to play on ping, so it's equal
Yeah, I
ground.
mean, it'll be equal. It might be less quality than you're used to, you know, with everyone being on such ping, but everyone will be on the same ping. So it'll be fair nonetheless. And you did bring up the first strike and runes, and another one I want to bring up was the Varus. I did see, before we went into that pause, I did see a little bit of an arcane comet on the side of Alias, which means this could be
Oh, Varus,
a
yeah.
potential with lethality bars. It is something that has seen a little bit of a rise in gameplay, and I would not be entirely opposed to it. There's not a lot of tankiness on the side of Beast Team Esports, and it'll be interesting to see whether he opts into it or not. A lot of short range CC as well, not a lot of long range engage. Not the likes of the Ornn, was that Ornhorn who can engage from a pretty far distance. Things like the Pantheon W, things like the Rel engage as well are pretty short range. So you will have that range advantage on the side of Ragnarok, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a lethality virus, but we're gonna have to see as he's slowly but surely working towards his way into his first item with the first couple of CS already being picked up.
Yeah, very nice from Alice, because I think. Oh yeah, yeah. We see this is a.
No,
Oh.
Kraken wins the trade. Oh, hold on.
y- Wait, Danny?
Hold on now.
How to not play Jace? No. Yeah. So I mean, I'm joking. The trade actually isn't that bad because he's gone longsword, so he's got more health pots than, not more health pots, but he's got 2 health pots, so he'll regen up. Anyway, I wanted to say, Alias actually going the poke Varus, Xayah and AD carry is really good at kiting, fantastic at, playing out these team fights. But one thing she is extremely weak against is poke and lethality. Varus, you basically outrange the Xayah immensely, and it's going to be really difficult for Mammon Feet. And Mammon Feet, I see as a player that when I've watched his games, if the game goes to late and he is in a strong position and on a champion that can carry out late game team fights, he will completely pop off. Some of the most clutch mechanics I've seen from an AD carry in the SLE. But last game he was on the Lucian, and this time, rough matchup. It's really important now for Alias to utilize this good adaptation going the lethality Varus and pressuring out this late game menace that Mammon Feet is.
Definitely. So I remember playing Xerath versus I remember playing Xayah, sorry, into a Varus Xerath lane, and I had the most miserable game of my life. But we do see a gank on the top lane.
Gank on the top lane, and Chwani Papour is going to be jumped on. Just Ryan holds the W, making sure he lands the stun. Just Ryan going to keep jumping forward. Doesn't quite land the W combo, and he potentially could get dove here. Having to flash, and Just Ryan showing up why his Viego is so feared. First blood secured, and already a lead for Ragnarok.
And I'm a little bit surprised this Viego went. I like got through draft with how well Just Ryan did in game number 1. Valiant again not having the best of starts for himself, an early flash being burned, but Danny does have a flash of his own as Just Ryan is looking for a gank on the mid lane, but might just opt into the better of it as Kraken does not have any setup of his own. The only setup would be Just Ryan's W, and he's gonna just finish up his recall. So far the wave is pushing towards Kraken, which tells me that he's gonna be in a primo position. Somehow he got a free recall because Danny is the one who's lower on mana. Kraken has pretty much full resources, and this matchup so far is not going into the favor of the Jace.
Yeah, so far, I think just off that initial trade at the start, kind of spelled a bit of a disaster situation, as the Warp is actually was hiding in the bush, so gets a flank on Seabreeze, but then realizing I'm just a rel, I don't do much damage here, runs away. And I think you could see what he was going for with Alias being on 0 mana. Yeah, I think one thing that's really important to note here is the reason why Josh Ryan was pressuring. Oh, actually, I'm going to stop myself as the Warp lands a stun onto Seabreeze. There goes the Talia combo, but doesn't quite land on the rocks. It doesn't matter as Mammon Feet picks himself up a kill. And last game, we saw a very quiet bot lane. As you can see, Beast Team Esports know Mammon Feet, you get this guy ahead, he will carry the game. And this time around, he gets an early kill.
And an early start into that bot lane. Valiant having a better start this game around than he did in that last game. It's gonna be a first dragon secured as well for the side of Beast Team Esports. And you were talking about it a little bit earlier, but if you can get some early kills onto Mammon Feet, he does tend to be someone you can rely on into those later stages of the game. But just trying, he's looking for a potential steal, but the dragon is gonna be just taken away. And the one on the top lane.
One as the what's the spell called? Grand Duel.
Yeah, I think so.
Grand
Wait,
Challenge.
which one?
Grand Challenge. Pure result.
Fiora Q?
Yeah. No, Pure result.
Yeah, Grand Challenge.
Yeah. Grand Challenge gets popped as Squibble attempts a solo kill on Chwani Papour. And I was saying, the thing about this Pantheon is, as you can see, he hasn't gone teleport. He's opted for the Ignite, which means when he dies, he's gonna lose so much farm. He falls behind like almost double CS just off dying. So that early gank from Just Ryan, you can look at the numbers already, 28 CS to 42. As a Pantheon, this is definitely a precarious situation and not one that you're too happy with. But yeah, we'll have to see how the rest of this game pans out. But if you are Pantheon here, definitely a concerning situation as Seabreeze up in the mid lane here, but look behind him. The WAP knows that something is up. It smells fishy as Seabreeze is in the bush, but there's no vision on him. Falinet taken over just Ryan's bot side jungle. Won't have a wolf camp to steal, but we'll start paying attention to the mid lane now. The WAP has spotted Seabreeze. There is information on the Leona now as he walks into the bush, into the waiting hands of the Beast Team Esports members. The Shock Blast does kind of whiff. Seabreeze is going to be able to flash away to safety.
How? I'm wondering in the bot lane.
Yeah, Mammon Feet in the bot lane. Alias is only level 5. Does have the flash, so won't pursue any further. Mammon Feet chunking out the Varus, and keep your eyes on the WAP as he is looking to wrap around on this turret. Just Ryan is nearby, so I want to see if the WAP will commit to this as the WAP will jump over the wall to safety. And yes, oh, Leona surviving here. It was almost as disastrous as the Victor teleport. How does Seabreeze escape this one?
How does this keep happening? Seabreeze stuck in the middle of 3 people, somehow just wiggles his way out. It was at the cost of his flash, but still, I feel like even as a Leona, it's not a situation you should be living out of, as we do see both top laners training very aggressively, but this is gonna be nothing but a short little trade for both of them. And Bamenfeed almost picked himself up a solo kill until it's burning out the ghost, but does have to be a little bit careful as it's going to be the WAP who's up towards that top side trying to get numbers advantage for this Herald, which means if they die Bamenfeed, this could be a very scary situation for Desire.
Very scary indeed. The Chain of Corruption is available. Seabreeze won't hit level 6 off that minion just yet. Mammon Feet is left alone. The Zenith Blade doesn't land, but there goes the Chain of Corruption. The root of the turret! Mammon Feet uses the Feather Storm to avoid any other incoming damage and secures himself the 1 versus 2 outplay under his turret. The Herald gets started up on the other side. Just Ryan eats a Shock Blast to the face. Keep your eyes on the Orianna Shockwave. This is going to be key for this fight. The ball placement isn't quite good enough. Here comes the Grand Skyfall. There's a kill from Mammon Feet on bot side. Kraken gets jumped on by 4, and the Pantheon is going to get himself a kill. And Beast Team Esports, this game around, going to get themselves ahead in the early game.
Beast Team Esports hit back at last, and Mammon Feed with a stupendous play down towards the bot side, picks himself up a Seabreeze. 2 seconds later, picks himself up an Alias off cam, and 2 kills for the Saya very early on into this game is very good. Kraken Slayer is going to be picked up on his early base, and this top lane is a little bit rough. First of Beast Team Esports for them went down by 20 CS on this Pantheon, but I gotta question a little bit what Seabreeze was doing down in that bot lane. I could have just right-clicked onto Mammon Feet and just let go of his mouse and just died under tower. It was very well played from Mammon Feet to use the Feather Storm to be able to live out of Alias's Chain of Corruption. Ends up picking himself up a double down towards the bot lane, which does mean, like you said it yourself, it is gonna be the first time where Beast Team Esports are the ones who are in the lead in this early game, and this is exactly what they needed.
Exactly what they needed indeed, and I think, sadly for Ragnarok, it was one of those plays where it's like, if you don't make it, nothing happens. Oh, Chain of Corruption lands onto the WAP. The Solar Flare is going to whiff, but that doesn't matter as Alias is going to be able to finish off the Rel. As Ragnarok picked themselves up a kill, but yeah, as I was saying, that play on bot lane just felt like one of those things where you didn't really have to make, but you know, you see it, you go for it. Regardless, happens. Ragnarok, they pick themselves up a kill on the WAP, and so Dragon opens up for them, and they will even up the objectives here.
Yeah, it is gonna be a Mountain Dragon going back towards the side of Ragnarok with an Infernal Soul on the table, which could or is going to be pivotal for both teams to be looking for, especially for the side of Ragnarok, as Bamenfeed is going to be looking for an aggressive play. They can definitely look for this. Bamenfeed has a Kraken in his inventory. This is a very strong Zaya at the moment.
And look for this, but look, just Ryan is in the bush, waiting for an aggressive movement from anyone from the Beast Team Esports bot lane. There is no information on Just Ryan and the WAP. You can see he's looking for it. Just Ryan pops the miss and he's going to use it. The Feather Storm onto Seabreeze is going to take him down. Rampage goes Mammon Feet. Alias has popped the ghost, but is going to get rooted by the feathers. Double kill for the AD carry of Beast Team Esports. Just Ryan, what can you do? You secure the shutdown. The WAP, you are left to run. Gets the stun under the turret. Just Ryan up against the WAP, but the WAP gets the win. 8 kills on the board as Valiant dies to a turret. Jake's got a kill.
Yeah, that's right. Valiant gets executed. He wanted to have some fun of his own, and Just Ryan ends up getting baited a little bit by the soul under tower. He took his soul and ended up getting a tower shot for his sins. And looking back at the replay, Seabreeze eats up an early blade caller there, which just means very low going into that play. Steps up too far forward in the flash as well coming out, or I thought it came out. I remembered wrong, but Just Ryan, look at how he grabs the soul, ends up taking a tower shot for his sins, which means the WAP just walks up and whaps him in the face.
Yeah, you whapped him. I really want that to become a saying, honestly. Like, throughout this series, I've been saying this guy's name, and in my brain, I've just been like, oh my god, I really want people to just go, like, get whapped, bro. Yeah, the WAP says to Just Ryan, get whapped, as he stuns him up onto the turret, and yeah, it was a really nice 2 versus 3 there from the Beast Team Esports bot lane, and you have to feel like you lose out a fight in the bot lane, your Orianna dies in the mid lane, whilst the Talia gets executed. So 2 plays where one of them you've engaged yourself, didn't go your way. One play in the mid lane didn't go your way. And right now, the game not going in the way of Ragnarok.
Beast Team Esports looking like they want to strike back in game number 2. They are pissed at what Kraken did to them in that game 1. This time, Kraken finds himself at 0-2. Last game he was 2-0 as well. He's looking for an engage here.
Yeah, the WAP lands the stun, and he's actually going to go on Alias, and look at the Weaver's wall onto the Varus. The focus is on him. Seabreeze, you've got no chance against Mammon Feet, as Valiant secures the kill onto the Varus, and Mammon Feet picks himself up another 10 kills on the board, and Beast Team Esports pulling away with this game, and it's all in the bot lane. Shockwave landed onto the WAP, but Kraken, you're just a 0-2 Orianna. Doesn't quite have the damage. The WAP with the what am I witnessing as Kraken is he just doesn't do much damage, and what? Okay, so apparently, Beast Team Esports were playing a prank on Kraken, and Kraken could not fight in the hidden camera, basically, as Beast Team Esports will get away with their lives. And the WAP, this guy, I love this guy. I love the WAP. The WAP is actually one of my favorite players in the SLE. I love the name. Get whapped, as Kraken is next on the list to get whapped, as yeah, he will run away with his life, and the horse is absolutely fine. A-okay, as you can see, this is why I wasn't keen. Oh, I'm going to stop myself at Squidward. Uses the Grand Challenge onto 20 Papaw. It will be under the turret. Fantastically played. Ooh, mechanics check coming out from Squirrel to secure himself the solo kill. And that's one thing Beast Team Esports need to look out for. This Fiora is becoming strong and could potentially be a threat. But yeah, as I was saying, that right there is like this game right here. This is why I wasn't keen on this Orianna pick. It's just too immobile. It doesn't provide enough damage, and yeah, it's sort of a supportive pick on a player who literally just went legendary in the last game. Yeah, not a fan, and I mean, we'll see how it goes in the team fights as the WAP and Just Ryan. Yeah, Just Ryan getting whapped in the jungle as he's left to run away. I love this saying. This is great. I hope he watches this VOD back and picks this up. I hope he rebrands into the WAP. Yeah, Valiant will encounter Just Ryan into the jungle. Solar Flare lands onto the WAP, and he's going to be brought down to critical health. There goes the first kill of the fight. 20 Papaw has arrived with the Grand Skyfall. Mammon Feet, look at this man on the Xayah. He is pumping out so much damage right now. The Fiora has arrived. Squirrel does not have the ultimate, as Mammon Feet playing with the confidence of the world right now. 7-1, and once again doing the damage and winning out the team fight. 2-for-1 for Beast Team Esports.
This is where you type in all that GGAD diff, as Mammon Feet just output so much damage in this fight. Seabreeze, great job from him to zone Mammon Feet away from just trying to make sure he can live as long as possible, but just couldn't get enough damage in. Gets absolutely bopped in the head by Papor as soon as he lands, as soon as the stun comes up, and just not expecting the Pantheon to join into the fight on the side of Ragnarok, and it is very much so looking like this Pantheon can provide great utility for the side of Beast Team Esports. Eclipse, sorry, has been picked up as well into the Gore Drinker of Squeewill. 2 items almost finished as well for Mammoth Feet, and Herald started for the side of Ragnarok.
Yeah, Harold started, and this will actually be contested. As you can see, Beast Team Esports members are around, but maybe too far away, so not contested. I was just kidding. And yeah, I think one thing I really have to say, and I mentioned this in draft, Ragnarok, you had a team composition that worked so well for you in the first game around. You've come into the second game and you've completely switched the flipped the switch, and you've changed it all around. And you can see this is why, you know, if you are a team and you've got your style. Oh, he missed the cannon, by the way.
Yeah.
If you've got your style, like you have to stick to it, because in the SLE you come up against a team and you're not at your best and you get punished for it. Speaking of, once again, someone please teach him how to use this ultimate.
Well, I don't understand. You just press ult and then you just like press ult again and you just hop over the wall. It's a little bit confusing, but
Listen,
nonetheless.
parkour is a difficult and dangerous sport, as the WAP is
True.
looking to WAP some more people in the jungle, as Josh Ryan is going to be the next victim. The Magnet Storm is going to be cancelled out by the Blast Cone, so that won't be much. As Falionet actually using the acceleration gate, great movement from Kraken, but he will be able to get out with his life, and you know, Kraken, despite being behind right now, is going to be essential for these team fights, because if he lands a good shockwave, it will set up the resets as a Squirrel in a fight with Tronny Purport. What a fast Fiora ultimate! That was one of the fastest Fiora ultimates I've ever seen, as he picks up a solo kill once again. And Beast Team Esports, you have to look out for this Fiora, because she is becoming a threat.
What the hell was that? Squeewill, where? Oh, they missed the cannon. Where have you been hiding that from us? That's gonna be another cannon that no one will ever see the gold from again. And
That was ridiculous.
that was,
I don't see master players execute that.
yeah, like that's what I'm saying. That's the fastest Fiora combo I've seen in any of my games live. And looking back at the replay, just look how fast he pulls this off. The complete turnout, wait for the ignite to wear off, and just bang, just completely turns it around. And that was like, surely that was under like 1.5 seconds, right? Like surely that was within that realm. It was so fast. And Squeewill just doing a beautiful job of outplaying Popor. And this is what we're talking about. You have to be careful with the Fiora, because the Pantheon late game does not beat the Fiora on the side lane.
Yeah, speaking of being careful, Josh Ryan, be careful of walking into your jungle, because there is a man there ready to whap you at any point in the game. As Josh Ryan, this has to feel rough. You had a fantastic first game, and this time around, you're not doing bad, but you can't even walk into your own jungle. As I'm looking at the minimap, Falionet is walking into the top lane with the support of his team. Josh Ryan trying to look for a play on Danny, but it's not going to be anything, as Squirrel now in the face of 3 members using the flash away from the whap. But here he is. That's why his name is the whap, because he's here to whap you. The Magnet Storm is used. Pantheon picks up that kill. Seabreeze, you are a little bit too late to the party, as Squirrel gets taken down and the kill goes over to the Pantheon, evening out the deficit. And yeah. Oh, Shockwave being used as Danny brought to critical HP. Josh Ryan is on the horizon, and this could open up a gank. Josh Ryan does have the flash, going to use the miss.
Oh my god.
Gets hit with a shock blast, brought to low HP. What Danny can do here is he can just run forward onto the Orianna. He knows that there is a potential dive incoming. Alias is here on the Varus. Josh Ryan using the flash to secure the kill. And Danny 8x8 is going to fall, and Kraken plays on a knife's edge to secure that kill. And yeah, Ragnarok, you can see they're making cross-map plays to even out the deficit as much as they can, and plays like this is exactly what you need to do to bring yourself back into the game.
So close margins. Just look at Kraken's HP. I would have loved to see Danny potentially just try TP out in a situation like this, because you can see Josh Ryan was kind of hesitant to go under tower there. It does end up getting the stun at the end of the day. He does end up picking up the kill as well alongside picking the gold up for himself. It was a Baron secured at the other side of the map for Beast Team Esports, which is why Ragnarok was so hellbent on going for that play. They wanted something at this side of the map, wanted to pick up at least something for themselves. It's going to be soul point potentially for Beast Team Esports if they secure this dragon, which it does look like they are going to end up doing, as it gets completely uncontested. And an Infernal Soul onto Mammon Feet at this stage in the game could be crucial versus Beast Team Esports, as Squeeble is just looking for some sideline pressure.
Yeah, speaking of crucial, I think during that bot lane play, Beast Team Esports were able to secure themselves the Baron buff. Soul point, this is looking good for Beast Team Esports, and although the side lanes aren't looking too bad for Ragnarok, look at Mammon Feet on this Xayah as more whapping has occurred, as Squirrel is going to be the next on the whap list. Mammon Feet trying to do as much damage as he can. Grand Skyfall onto Seabreeze. He's going to be the first to fall. Squirrel jumping forward with Just Ryan, actually going to get a reset. Mammon Feet with the Xayah, trying to look at the outplay. It's going to be Danny against Mammon Feet.
God.
Actually, they're on the same team as Kraken. Is going to be brought to low HP. The Penta is going to be stolen, but yes, as I said, the Orianna just isn't enough. It's not the pick here as the last one alive. And the fight goes over to Beast Team Esports. Data, take it away.
Look at the shockwave coming through 4 members, I believe. It was hit by, as it did, just in a moment. It hit so many people, but like you said, just not enough damage. Blade Caller, absolutely gorgeous Mammon Feet with the stopwatch as well at the back end of that alias with the flash forward. And like you said, Penta gets stolen by Danny, but it was such a good play from Mammon Feet. And we were talking earlier about how much this man can do if you get him ahead, how good his Xayah is later on into the game, how much you can rely on him. And 11 on 1, 700 gold shutdown, and this is the man that put Beast Team Esports on his back for this game, and the man they've been playing through for 23 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yeah, Mammon Feet is putting in an absolute stellar performance right now, and this is why I have been screaming the praises for this man, because every time I watch him on a champion where he can execute these team fight plays perfectly, he does it perfectly. In this game already, that was so close to being a team fight win for Ragnarok, a 4-man shockwave for Kraken, but unfortunately for him, Danny and Mammon Feet clutched it out in the end, and they won their team fight, and it was close to Ragnarok. If there's a saving grace, it is there. That team fight was super close, and considering how far behind they are, you have to take a positive of that. As Seabreeze looking to get whapped in the jungle, as down goes the Rel stun. Valiant throwing into the rocks, and he's gonna secure the kill. The teleport comes in. Check the shockwave. Look at the feather damage. The what is left on his ones, and he is going to fall. Squirrel using the grand challenge, but it's going to drop as Mammon Feet goes godlike. Kraken lands a big shockwave, but is it going to be enough? No, it's not. Valiant gets another kill. Here comes Danny with the chase, jumping forward with the hammer, as Alias is going to be left to fight with his mid laner, but that's not going to be enough. The Hex Drinker shield is going to keep him alive as Kraken is left to run on his own. The shock blast doesn't quite land, but you can imagine Beast Team Esports now will continue their push into the mid lane.
And Mammon Feet again with a beautiful Feather Storm to avoid the engage from Just Ryan, and just playing it so damn well. And the Weaponator strikes back and sees what he can do in that team fight. 8,000 gold lead for the Beast Team Esports, and the play was started by the Chains of Corruption landing on the WAP, and they almost got him too. They killed him very early on into the fight, but look at Mammon Feet. The Feather Storm is so gorgeous into the Blade Caller, and Kraken again with the 2-man shockwave trying to come in so clutch. And Danny, not exactly the play he wanted to get out of this, but the Grand Skyfall doing so much work and ends up taking out Alias. Almost took out Kraken at the back end of that as well, but just having 2 movement on the Orianna meant that he could make his escape.
Yeah, he did indeed, and I think the common narrative throughout this game is Mammon Feet, Danny, the WAP. They've had exceptional games here, as there's a Chain of Corruption onto Mammon Feet, but the cleanse is good. Here comes the WAP landing a massive engage. The Magnet Storm lands onto 3. Seabreeze in the not being able to do much. Here comes the Feather Storm. The Feathers get called back. Down goes Just Ryan. Squirrel, you are left to follow. Double kill on for the Talia. The WAP is left to Chase as Chase
Ah,
is ending the game in the enemy base. And Danny, that is the most boring play you could have made with a hyped team fight. But nonetheless, Ragnarok, you have fallen to your opponents, and Beast Team Esports, they level up the series. 1-1 will be the result.
Danny just taking matters into his own hands. He said, "I've had enough. Get me the hell out," and is gonna finish
Danny
up
takes down the
both
next.
of the
Sorry, I was
Nexus
waiting. I was
towers.
waiting for it. I was waiting for it.
It's okay. You got it. You got it. We're done. We're done. GG's.
Nice.
GG's to both teams. 10k gold, 10k gold for Beast Team Esports at the end of that game. And what a game for Mammon Feet. And it is just such a good game for this Zaya coming in. And definitely, I don't know about you, but definitely my MVP for this game. Such a good performance out of the. I feel like both of the bot lane. WAP did so much work during that entire game, and often supports go unrecognized. Often supports don't get the honor and glory they deserve, but definitely this time it was the Weaponator who struck back.
It was the Weaponator indeed, and yeah, gosh, you know what? I think yes, Mammon Feet should probably get MVP, but just because of his name and because of this new sort of this new term that we've come up with, like if someone just gets smacked by enemy support in the jungle, that is just you're just getting whapped. Like don't get whapped in your jungle. I think just because of this, he's my MVP. Like
Fair.
easy.
I mean, you know what they say. He protect, he attack, but most importantly, he is the WAP, as he did end up finishing that game 1-4-20 in that
Yeah.
game number two, 14 on 1 on Mammon Feet, and so many clutch plays, so many good feather storms, play colors, keeping himself alive. And we promised, so when it's at the start of this series, excitement, we promised this was gonna be hype as hell, and we got exactly what we wanted.
Yeah, super hype games, and I think both teams were coming into this game on equal standings, and we could see how close they were. The first game was quite dominant from Ragnarok, and the second game, Beast Team Esports, they were able to take it through. I think one thing I have to commend Beast Team Esports over Ragnarok is the first game it didn't go well. They stuck with their preparation, they stuck with their team comp, and they made a slight adaptation in putting a late game team fighting a champion on their star player in the bot lane, and you saw that it paid dividends. Ragnarok, on the other end, they had this first game team composition and it worked wonders for them. They go into the second game and they try and play around a bit too much, I feel. They pick champions that didn't quite make sense, and unfortunately they falter, and it ends up the series 1-1. Um, and I guess you could say, like, whappity whap whap, because Beast Team Esports had a fantastic game there. The bot lane particularly, but definitely honorable mentions to Falinet on the Talia. First game wasn't ideal with those two mistakes, but this time around, much better performances. The Weaver's walls were looking much better this time around, and I think if you're Beast Team Esports, you definitely want to leave this last game on a high note, on a positive, telling yourself that it's a great showing from all of us. Maybe the Pantheon stop inting, but nonetheless, great stuff from you. And if Ragnarok, you definitely don't walk away from this head down. You still want to be positive. That first game was still dominant, but I think you leave this definitely confirming to yourself, let's just stick to what we know. Let's stop messing around with, trying to be diverse and unique, because we saw in that last game there, it just wasn't it. And yeah, I think they are much better on traditional team fighting, team compositions.
Yeah, definitely so. And I feel like this was one of those times where if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I
Yeah,
feel
exactly.
like you said it yourself, they played around a little bit too much and should have just stuck to what they did in game one. This time around, it does not end up being enough for them. And this does mean that both Beast and Ragnarok are gonna be going into week 3, 4-on-1, which is impressive in itself. And we'll have to see if any other teams can rise up to that standard. So far, it is Black Lotus Esports, Interstellar Aquila, Snack Pack, and Slim Odds, who are the other teams who are still yet to play their games and are still 3-on-1. But so far, we're gonna have to see if either of those teams end up rising to the same standard, it is gonna be Interstellar Aquila and versus Limods tomorrow at the same time. So it'll be interesting to see if it's gonna be another 1-1 or if it's gonna be a 2-0. And I quickly do want to summon X. I do want to ask you, since it is already tomorrow and the game is already happening on Friday. How do you think that game is gonna end up? Do you think it's gonna be a one-sided 2-0, or do you? I want to hear some predictions out of you.
Nah, I hate
What?
2-0s. 2-0s are boring. 1-1s all across the board. Nah, I'm joking. Honestly, I think. Oh, I mean, yeah.
I'm putting a gun to your head. I want an answer on this.
Okay. The thing is, right? For me, it's really hard to differentiate big skill gaps between teams in the SLE right now. I think a lot of teams are super, super close with each other. And I think we have seen two O's here and there, but even the two O's, I think, with the exception of Visogen two O's, have been really, really close games. Like I can't remember the last two I saw, but I just remember watching one where I was like, both games could have gone either way, genuinely. So I think just off that, I'm gonna be boring. I'm sorry, but I am gonna go with a 1-1. Um,
Uh,
yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just right now. I think teams are just so close in terms of skill level, which is fantastic to watch as a spectator. But it definitely means boring predictions, and more importantly, it makes predictions difficult because, yeah, you know, teams are all looking good right now, and it's really hard to separate any of them. I think, there's definitely a, top level tier of teams and a middle and a bottom tier. But yeah, it's hard to judge, to be honest. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
boring Sovanix
Yeah,
prediction.
okay.
Everyone just
Okay.
boo. Now, all jokes aside, that is fair enough, and I definitely do agree. I feel like this split five, yeah, it just overall is. I feel like the most even we've had skill wise. Having 22 teams as well does help, and boasting that many teams in a season is gonna mean that the skill gaps aren't gonna be as evident, aren't gonna be as high. And definitely today as well, it did feel like, I don't know about you, but I feel like today's games were pretty even from both sides, and it does definitely reflect that
But
in the scoreline as well, being a 1-1. But do you think today's games were even? What do you think?
I would say today's games were even. The only thing is that both games had a clear individual that was stand out above the rest. The only thing I would say is that I think Ragnarok showed a level of team play that I expected more from. Because I think when you see them play at their best, they seem very coordinated. Josh Ryan is very good at facilitating and pulling the strings for his team. We see Kraken with fantastic damage outputs, and I think that's how they like to play the best. I think today though, like especially in that second game, and even parts of the first game, we saw Seabreeze and Alias being a bit disconnected from the games. And wait, that sounded toxic. I meant disconnected from the rest of the
Huh?
disconnected from the rest of the rest of the team, and at times, not all the time, at times. And so I think, yeah, I just think today it was close. It wasn't a stomp by any means, but I think Beast Team Esports definitely showed better team play, and I think even taking a look at that first game, I reckon if Kraken wasn't Giga fed, then that game would have been much closer and probably even. It's like if those Talia ultimates had gone the way that they should have, we probably would have seen a different outcome, right? So. I have to take into account that the first game was just Kraken kind of 1v9ing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was close in that sense. But yeah, I think if you were to be like who was the better team today, I unfortunately have to say Beast Team. No, I'm sorry, Ragnarok, please don't hate me, but I just thought Beast Team Esports, their team play was great. Like in that last game, yes, they did have a standout individual, but Wapping was Wapping, and oh God.
That.
Basically, great
Mm.
games all across the board in that second game, except for maybe the Pantheon.
Fair enough, definitely. I do agree. I feel like Ragnarok, they're boasting such impressive players. Kraken, Seabreeze, and Squirrel are all in their own right very good at the game. Just Ryan as well, and was a little bit disconnected down the bot lane, but ends up being a 1-4 for us today, which does mean that we are pretty much done here for the night, and it does mean that our next game up is gonna be, like I mentioned earlier, the Friday game between Interstellar, Aquila, and Slimos. Both teams are 3-1, so definitely a game you're gonna want to catch, as it's gonna mean that if either team is gonna take a 2-0, they're gonna move to the top of the standings momentarily until the Rival Lynx versus Blazing Pandas game is gonna be played. So definitely make sure you catch that if you make sure to be there, sorry, if you weren't planning to, and make sure to catch these games as well if you are only joining us this late. Make sure to watch the VOD back, because this was definitely an exciting day and definitely some exciting games and moments as well. And I we are done here, so I do want to wish everybody a good day, a good night, depending on where you're watching from, and we are gonna catch you later. Thank you, Sovanix and Peppa, for both joining me today, and goodbye.
Bye. Get whacked.